Welcome back to Scouching's video room. Today we are going to have some fun and take a look at Montreal Canadiens' first-round draft selection from this summer's past draft, Michael Hage of the University of Michigan. He's wearing number 19. He's in the navy jersey here. If you're not familiar, what we do is we take a cross-sectional look at one game of a player's performance, just see what they're bringing to the game, maybe some areas of improvement that might be there, how things might have changed since I've seen this player but as a draft eligible, and just take a quick look at what this player is bringing to the game. There's been a lot of eyes on Ivan Demidov this season, rightfully so, but Michael Hage is having a really good freshman season too, so let's go and see if we can find out why and dig into the video here. So the first thing that I'm going to pick up on here, and it's more about an echo of what I saw of Hage last season playing for the Chicago Steel, and it's just that for me, Hage is a player who is by far, in my opinion, at his best in the offensive zone once the puck is already there. And so Hage is here waiting at the offensive blue line on this rush, and so the first thing I want to notice is just the intensity and speed at which he closes this gap to number 6 here on Wisconsin. Doesn't really cause much of a physical interaction until the puck is moved to someone else, but he sticks with it and causes a turnover in the offensive zone and establishes a little bit of possession there. They lose it, but with Michael Hage there, it's on that entry, that first interaction, a little bit late to get there, but then he follows up really well, gets below the goal line, causes something to happen. So again, it's just an echo or a little reminder for me that this is a player that for me has always stood out more once the puck is in the offensive zone. And again here, so Michael Hage is here. He's doing the right thing. You have a defenseman pinching up and trying to keep the puck hemmed in the offensive zone. It doesn't quite work, but Hage does a good job knocking down that pass and maintaining the puck in the offensive zone. Again, not really moving his feet very much, but that's largely because he doesn't have to in this situation. But in that close quarter situation, causes a turnover. It still doesn't get the puck back into the offensive zone with possession, but hockey is a sport of a collection of things both going your way and maybe not going your way. And in that situation, I thought Hage showed some things in those close quarter situations that work in his favor, and maybe why, if there's ground to cover or quickness necessary, he might have a bit of an issue. This is where the importance of skating on your edges and how quickly you can turn and how tight your turns are can make a huge difference in terms of being a forechecker. There is a bit of a gap here between Hage and the puck carrier. Obviously, hockey's not all about just chasing the puck all of the time, and he does a really good job cutting off this option here, wrapping around the net. At the end of the day, he's not really factoring into this much at all. Number 7 manages to evade him there. He kind of escapes the stick check from Hage, and they manage to get the puck out of the offensive zone. So it's a matter of how and why I look at a player's skating ability and their quickness and their fluidness on their feet as a major asset, especially for centers and their ability to forecheck and stay in the flow of play really well. This is a thing that I've seen before with Hage, so I'm kind of not surprised by it. And it's not a bad thing. It's just players bring things and they might not bring other things, and it's just something to keep in mind for the rest of this game. Now you see kind of what makes Michael Hage really special. So he has a little bit of room here in open ice to play with. This puck is going to come squirting off of the boards, and Hage is not going to make any mistake, and he's just going to grab it and take off. I'm not trying to say that Hage is a slow player, but the quickness in close quarters defense situations is more of what I'm getting at. But in situations like this, where Hage has some time and space to wheel up and get some speed going, especially high in the defensive zone, he can really be an offensive rush threat like this. So he'll just come in, exit the defensive zone, and just burn Logan Hensler there. And so the other thing, too, that I think is really smart, and it's a thing that a lot of really high-end offensive players talk about when you ask them about how they manage to achieve their goals, they watch the opposing defenseman's feet, right? So if I back up again, watch Hage as he exits, and watch where Logan Hensler goes. Just because of Hensler needing to shift back and forth, the lateral quickness and skill level with Michael Hage there, it allows him to have a little bit more freedom to create some space here. So faking one way, going the other way, and then stopping up on Logan Hensler, it just makes him very unpredictable as a puck carrier, and that can be a very dangerous asset to have. Sometimes all you have to do in hockey is create a little bit of a gap between the guy defending you, and if you can sort of keep them guessing on what you're trying to do or which direction you're going to go or what you're doing in the offensive zone, it can be a huge asset. And I think that was a really good example of what Hage brings to the table. We've seen this in so many videos in this series to this point. And again, you have I don't even know how to describe this. It's like some sort of mythical chasm from Lord of the Rings of room here. You've got all 4 Wisconsin players here, almost between the face-off circle and the boards, all at once, and this guy is in the neutral zone. So the entire offensive zone is available to play with here, and Hage just is on his own, having a picnic. He's a scoring threat. He doesn't close this gap particularly quickly. There isn't that level of intent, but what he does do is positions himself really, really well to maybe cause a turnover there. He's tracking this play really well, and I think that if you're not going to go into the corners here and maybe try to cause a turnover in that situation, you work to get to the boards and try to cut off that attempt to rim it around the boards, but Hage doesn't quite get there and isn't really much of a factor there. It gets cut off by someone else, but again, it's that awareness and that anticipation skill, so with a little bit more, just a smidge more, I'd try to encourage him just to get to those spots a little bit quicker. I think it would pay off immensely for a guy like him with how skilled he is. An interesting sequence there and an interesting potential situation to capitalize when Wisconsin was in that kind of a defensive situation. Super tiny thing, but this is something that I've seen with Hage over the years that is just, I think, a part of the shortcomings of his game here. So on this offensive zone breakout, obviously, I'm not expecting him to do an amazing job here and block this pass or something. A guy just kind of sneaks right behind him. He doesn't really shoulder check to monitor. If he had managed to make this read and get his stick facing this direction, he may have been able to knock down that pass or maybe use his feet to just cut off the angle a little bit more. But the guy just gets right through him. Like, my defensive rush data on Hage last year was not particularly good. It was about the only track to data area where he wasn't really, really impressive. So that's really the only area last year that I found was a bit of a weakness. And I found that a lot of that was because of this lateral footwork and sort of awareness off the puck on defensive rushes that kind of left him a step behind or 2 steps behind. He turns things around here just perfectly fine. Perfect spacing here to split the D and just get right in behind, and Will Whitelaw's coming in right with him, and now you have a 2-on-1. Hage positions himself perfectly there, and then they go swimming, and he times things perfectly. This is why I don't like seeing defensemen who do this. Really smart offensive players are going to wait you out. If they see you hitting the deck here, they're not going to just pass it into your gut here, right? They're going to try to find a way around you because you're not a mobile threat anymore. You're a stationary-ish object. And now Will Whitelaw just has all the space in the world to go to the net completely uncontested. They managed to get themselves a really good scoring chance there that number 24 does a pretty good job breaking up. But you see the point, right? Like, that ability to pause and wait. Hage whiffs on a shot there, but again, finds himself in scoring position. Wisconsin's just in a spin cycle right now, and Michigan's taking advantage of it. But in that situation, I think that's just a really good example of high-end offensive zone instincts from a guy like Michael Hage, and the kinds of things that if you're a defending team, you know, to me in 2025, like stuff like that, it's a last resort option for me. This is just a little thing here that I wanted to highlight. I love when guys do this, especially if they are maybe not the fastest or most skilled guys in the world. And Hage is quite fast and quite skilled. But the ability to play around with defensive positioning and take advantage of how you're manipulating the opponent is super important. And so Hage gets a pass here. This is at 4-on-4, so technically, you know, not something I would track data on, but this play just kind of stuck out as something that's small, but I wanted to highlight. And his ability, so what he's doing now is he's driving this way, and he's got 2 guys on him here, right? And so what has happened now is, especially at 4-on-4, there's even more ice to play with. So what he'll do is just kick this back to Ethan Edwards here. Ethan Edwards has an option here, pardon my drawing, or he probably has an option further up the ice there. Being a forward and carrying the puck, it's not always about just gaining blue lines and gaining blue lines and gaining blue lines. It can be about pulling the opponent to a certain area of the ice or pulling them away from where you're trying to exploit, utilizing your line mates and just moving the puck with a lot of room, right? So there you go. That's a perfect execution of what I'm trying to say here. So Hage receives this pass, cuts across to the left wing of the ice, kicks it back to Ethan Edwards here, and now Edwards has a clear offensive entry, and he just steps right in, and he's completely uncontested. So based on this game so far, I mean, it's 2 completely different classes of teams, in my opinion, and the way Michigan is moving the puck and the way they're sort of playing. But in general, this is a team and a guy in Michael Hage who's been doing a really, really good job at playing a sort of high-end offensive game. So again, with Michael Hage, the skating stride in terms of just generating speed going in a straight line is not incredible here, very upright, and just not really generating a tremendous amount of straight line speed, but he kind of compensates for it with that really good edge work and really good skill there. Hockey is often about trade-offs, right? You have certain areas where you might be very strong, and being able to utilize those strengths to your advantages and taking a bit of the weight off of what you might not bring to the game so much is super, super important. And I think Hage displays really, really well exactly what makes him so interesting. So, almost blows a tire, but uses his skill to move the puck over to Ethan Edwards, and now they have a clean offensive zone entry. He very easily could have just dumped the puck in, gone for a change or something, but he had that awareness and that recognition to go, I'm going to pull the puck around this guy, mess around with his defending and keep play moving in the right direction, which for me, watching this game as much as I do, I love to see stuff like that rather than that simple, just get the puck in the offensive zone, go for a change and whatever. If you have an option to keep possession, I always would say that that's the better option to go with. So this is a bit better from Hage here. This is literally the beginning of his shift, and the puck's going to come this way, and he's already just got a full head of steam, and he's going to go right into this interaction and cause a turnover, which the more you do that, the more you work for me. He picks up this loose puck, and this doesn't work out in his favor. Before he even touches the puck, he's looking and seeing Will Horkoff here, and I think he's hoping that Horkoff has a bit more speed exiting the zone here, and he just misses on the pass. But the idea is what matters, and so the more you see these guys scanning and pre-planning what they're going to do with the puck, especially in potentially chaotic situations in the defensive zone, the better off you're going to be, and I think that Hage showed more things that I'm wanting to see more of out of him. This is just such a common thing that I'm seeing in this series with high-end offensive players, off the puck especially, right? Watch where he goes here, right? So Wisconsin's set up pretty well here in a sort of five-man spiderweb kind of vibe here, and Hage just finds a way. He goes, oh, you know what? I'm going to go here, because everybody is kind of leaving this gap open here, and he'll just sail right through. Now, if this puck comes this way and a quick pass out in front, who's going to stop him? Right-hand shot, boom. You have a quick chance on net right there. The puck gets to Edwards. Hage is a little bit out of position here, but there is a point to this, right? So Hage is going to come back here and support this board battle and make himself an option for a behind-the-net pass here, and that's exactly what happens. He receives a behind-the-net pass, tries to go for a wraparound, and gets blocked, but Hage barely touched the puck on that sequence, but he constantly was putting himself in a position to be a threat offensively. On the rush and below the goal line, just really, really good, almost perfect execution on that I love to see from guys off the puck. I'm not sure exactly what happened on this play, but again, Hage is in really good position here to receive a pass and have a quick, easy one-timer. Again, that right-hand shot, puck's coming from that direction, he'll have no problem. But he kind of floats below the goal line here, and I mean, in my thinking here, I would kind of stop up along the goal line here, or hope that, I forget how to pronounce this guy's name, Iernesi, kind of just drops the puck to him, but they end up sort of crossing over each other and just losing possession here. I'm not sure exactly what kind of a miscommunication happened there, but I don't know, just something to highlight. And there goes Hage again. Like, I don't know what Wisconsin's doing in this game here. They're just puck watching, and Hage just goes right back to the net, right? Like, hockey can be often pretty simple, especially if you can sort of catch your opposing team sleeping here. I mean, what is happening? This is just not even... the story writes itself here, right? Like, you've got a direct pass through here, or you could break down here and try to cross seam pass here. There's multiple options, right? Both players have tons of space, and that's exactly what Will Horkoff tries to do there. That could have been a very, very dangerous scoring chance very easily. So yeah, even though Hage and Iernesi had a bit of a weird moment there, you just find space, go to the net, and if the opponent is sleeping, you can take advantage of it. So Hage in really good position here in the defensive zone on the back check. He's got a whole room to himself, and he just cuts off this pass. I mean, he sends pass into traffic here, which is a bit of an issue for me, especially with sort of the amount of room that Hage has to sort of exploit. You have a lot more to play with as opposed to these four guys all sort of messing around. So I probably would be advised to play with the space he's got, but hey, Michigan got the puck in the offensive zone anyway, so no harm, no foul, I suppose. So again, Michael Hage, just a quick cut here, and he leaves Logan Hensler behind. Beautiful, beautiful play there from the entire line. Just the quick cut back, creates a bit of a gap, quick thought, quick pass, Moldenauer to the front of the net, and now they have themselves a scoring chance, and that's another one. Hage just showcasing a lot of, in my opinion, what makes him such an interesting player, and maybe why I might see him more as a winger at the NHL level, and you can sort of let him play play with a little bit more of an offensive edge to him, because on this play, he is already at the left wing near the offensive blue line. He doesn't need to be the primary puck carrier on this play. And again, just a quick cut, he'll come back and then send a pass across the ice here and do it under pressure too, right? Like, there is contention here from a back checker on Wisconsin, but he's got a clear lane. He sees it and he doesn't waste any time, and they get themselves a scoring chance. And again, all five Wisconsin guys are deep, crashed around the net, all of the room in the world for him to fetch the rebound with no contention whatsoever, right? You have all five Wisconsin guys here. No one is monitoring what's going on behind them in the defensive zone or anything. They are all just crashing the net, and they almost pay for it here, right? I mean, now you have literally almost every single member of the Wisconsin team in the scoring areas of the ice, and you get yourself another scoring chance on net that's blocked by one of the many Wisconsin guys crowding the net. But again, really, really high-end offensive sequence there from Hage that I've seen stuff like that from him before, and that's what he does. Again, on the offensive rush here, Hage is not the primary guy, but he gets the puck in the offensive zone. Staying calm and being aware of your surroundings is super, super important, and I think he does a really good job letting Wisconsin skate around him. Great sequence there from Michigan. Hage stops up again, leaving Hensler behind. I think that's the third time in this game where he's been able to establish offensive zone gaps on him. And just all three Wisconsin guys kind of overcommit a little bit away from him. It gives him a pretty clear lane. This guy probably should be quickly covering Hage here, but he just kind of floats right by him, giving Hage a huge lane here to play with, right? Like, nobody is a threat, really, unless this guy really motors and cuts off this potential pass, but everyone else's momentum is taking them back towards the net. So no question here, and they just find a way to get another scoring chance. This is another super simple thing that I just love to see, right? Like, there is so much data out there that says that if you're a guy who has the puck at the point, forward, defenseman, it doesn't matter, and you're just going to lob it on net from the perimeter, you're probably not, especially in the NHL, you're not going to get yourself a goal unless something weird and chaotic happens, and that's hockey. There is lots of information out there that if you can find a way to even just navigate yourself into the middle of the ice and make the goaltender kind of pull themselves this direction and track play and maybe lose track of the puck, or make them sort of shuffle to one side to try to track where the puck is going, it gives you a better opportunity to score, right? Obviously, this is still a low percentage shot, right? There is a screen in front of the net, but 9 times out of 10, a goalie should be able to stop this, especially in the NHL. But I would rather a guy do something like this and put a puck on net and see if they can get a chance, because from the corners or from the blue line on the boards, it's just much lower percentage. You have a bigger part of the net that could be showing from the middle of the ice. And if you can, everything should be funneling through the middle of the ice. It's a huge part of the game, especially at high levels. So here comes Michael Hage again, right? The skill level with this guy is really, really good. I mean, look at what he does here. You know, going in this direction, and then very quickly just pulls the puck back this direction, uses his quick turn to go back that direction as well. This guy just falls for it and is now left completely behind, and Hage now has an opportunity to again find his way into the middle of the ice for a shot attempt. So again, you know, it isn't just that he stops up. I see this all the time. Guys who do have quite a bit of skill and can do stuff like this, they stop up in this area and then just blast one on net from here on a quick skill move. But having that ability to basically get yourself out into the middle of the ice and not just be that quick shot on net, I think makes a big difference. And obviously that shot gets blocked, but it's, you know, the mentality of these things and the collection of these things happening more and more often is kind of what you're looking for. And so with Hage, I think he's done this a few times in this game where you're just sort of going, all right, he's looking for good opportunities. He's thinking not just about the plays directly in front of him, but like what he can do to make something happen in the offensive zone. A lot of people always talk about how important habits are, and this is kind of, I think, a lot of what people mean. So Hage is here on the left wing, ready to receive an entry pass from Garrett Shifsky. Shifsky doesn't give him one until later. I mean, he blows a tire, but he gets right back up, maintains control, gets pinned to the boards by Logan Hensler here, which maybe he dubs the puck and gets rid of it before that happens, but whatever. That's too nitpicky for me. But he gains possession, and this is what I mean by habits, right? You could maybe argue that this is probably the right play if you just want to play it safe and just put it below the goal line. You know, you have a wraparound opportunity here, or maybe Hage goes to the net, or maybe this guy can step up a little bit and maybe get a good chance on net here. But Hage just goes to the net himself, right? I mean, you got to be pretty big and strong and capable to do this in the NHL, but to see a guy willing to do it and see a young player able to establish body positioning and try to keep himself between a defender and the puck in those tight, high danger scoring areas, if he can learn how to do that against better and better competition, then that's also going to help him with that offensive toolkit that we've seen many, many times in this game. So generally, I don't pay much attention to 3-on-3 overtime with young players. I just think that the vast majority of NHL games are played at 5-on-5 anyway, and you can kind of isolate who probably will perform well at 3-on-3. A guy like Hage is a very interesting prospect to deal with because oftentimes they have so much skill, so much talent, so much upside, and they can get away with a lot at lower levels, and a lot of people talk about this kind of thing. And so I'm not trying to say that this is a bad play at all. It shows a capability that Michael Hage has, but in order to do stuff like this in the NHL, you're going to have to be super, super high-end and confident, right? Like in this situation, you're facing tough coverage, and he just doesn't face enough pressure that he causes a turnover, but recognizes a lane for an exit and just doesn't establish a whole lot of speed on that exit here. So it's a risky thing, right? This is a risky situation, and even at this level, in this situation, if that pass is knocked down a little bit cleaner, he's going to be on the defensive rush there again. And so I'm not trying to be too nitpicky about this, but again, it's about noticing things and seeing patterns and maybe trying to see what the role might be in the NHL and what they're capable of and what might be a bit of a limitation. And so might be areas to work on for me, at least with Hage to this point. But at the end of the day, I mean, this game is basically over for my purposes. We can just let the video play until the end. But for me, I mean, Hage was really good in this game. I don't want to come off sounding like I'm being super, super critical, because I'm not. I think that Hage, at the very, very least, has all the potential in the world to be a really exciting offensive winger in the NHL, right? He's a step behind quite a bit in terms of those defensive zone interactions and everything, but he's so smart positionally, being aware of where to go and where to be on the ice, and all of those things are really, really high end with him. And on the forecheck, you know, if he wants to be that F1 type or F2 on the forecheck, trying to block lanes, and even there, he just did one there. He's eaten Logan Hensler alive this game a lot of times, more often than he's been beaten by him. And so with Hage, there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of upside, there's a lot of capability. It's just going to be a matter of finding a balance of all of these things that work for him the best in the NHL that allows him to be an offensively productive player. Is this particularly different from what I remember of Hage in the past? Not really. Really good crossovers to generate some speed, wheel up in the defensive zone, get some pace going through the neutral zone. Really good skill level that I think is at his best when he's not playing at his highest pace of play, like when he's able to stop up on guys and sort of play around with people's brains a little bit and mess around with their feet. I think that's when he's really, really impressive. You see a guy who brings all the tools to the table to be a really good offensive player at some point in some way. You see a guy who might be able to have that next level of thinking on a power play, for example. There's lots to like with Hage, and maybe some nitpicky stuff here and there where you're going, maybe these are the things that withheld him from being like a top 10 pick last year, right? In terms of pure skill, pure offensive ability, I think Hage has a really bright future ahead of him. I mean, he's a guy that I think I'd want to send back to college for another year and let him really take on a really, really major role for Michigan and score a lot more and just keep getting more and more comfortable at this level, because I think most of this game was really good, but I would still like to see him, because I think the potential is there for him to take another step. And then in the NHL, one day when that happens, maybe the AHL first, you see a guy who I think could be a productive player. I'm not sure where in a lineup he would slot in, but if it were my team, you know, as a play facilitating winger who can move the puck really well, see the ice really well, forecheck well in the offensive zone, and maybe you take a bit of defensive responsibility away from him in the defensive zone and let him sort of be that I'm ready to jump into the offensive rush type winger higher in the defensive zone, then I think there could be a really good package of traits there that could really maximize what he is. So before we end, I'm going to put him in our power ranking for the Video Room series. I am going to slot him in at number 11. What we have now is at 15, Carter Yakimchuk, 14, Beckett Seneca, 13, Berkeley Catton, 12, Artyom Levshinov, then Hage, Perreault, Sandin Pellikka, Nazar, Artamonov, Cowan, Dickinson, Hellenius, Parekh, Demidov, and Buyam. I think that this list outside from, I'd say from 4 until 11, where Hage is, has been very, very, very close. Hage was really good in this game. Gabe Perreault was really good in the game that I did as well. And in a way, they kind of were really good in similar ways. You know, the offensive spacing, the skill level was there, the vision, the passing ability, it was all great. But I think it is just a bit behind, you know, Nikita Artamonov played in the KHL, for example, and showcased some really spectacular offensive instincts. Frank Nazar in the AHL and Sandin Pellikka in the SHL, those are really, really tough levels of competition. And I think both of those guys showed extremely well. But in terms of the ability to drive offensive results, if all of this was just about skill level and flash and razzle dazzle and offensive output, Hage is probably higher on this list than the rest of the group here. But I can't lie, a lot of these guys have been really, really, really good so far and just complement each other and are different in subtle but meaningful ways. So with Hage, really good game. I thought he was pretty good. And, you know, not a whole lot to be concerned about at all. Just some things to maybe work on or develop a little further. And, I mean, with Montreal, things have been going pretty well in terms of prospect development, so I imagine the future is pretty bright for Hage. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked it, you can definitely like and subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And if you really liked it, check out Scouching.ca, where a subscription will get you access to all kinds of cool stuff like a Discord server and tons of data tables and data tools for drafted, undrafted prospects, NHL team data, as well as access to my private tracked data that is proprietary and you won't find it anywhere else. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.